15th, 2025, back with another new stream this week. Hope everybody's week has been going pretty smoothly so far. Today we're going to be discussing releasing instrumental projects as a producer. These could include EPs, albums, of course, and I guess we're kind of going to be touching on releasing songs as a producer as well. And this is something that I have experience with as a producer. I've been releasing my own music since 2020, so 5 years now. I think it's 5 years almost to the month. Actually, a little over 5 years. I think I dropped my first EP in March of 2020, so yeah, a little over 5 years at this point. That project that I released back then was called Life Test Volume 1. And I don't really remember a lot about, the reason I decided to do that project specifically. It ended up being 3 different EPs that all came out that year. All is a series called Life Test. And essentially the theme of it was, the different trials you go throughout life and how you keep answering them and keep moving forward. So the whole series was kind of themed around that. And if you listen to it, because it's still on streaming, I don't listen to it that much, admittedly, but you can listen to it if you want, all 3 of them. I had like skits in there, or little clips I found from YouTube of TED Talks, inspirational quotes, things of that nature that fit the theme of each song. And that's something that I've gotten away from the last year or so. I did it also on Sound Origin Volume 1, 2, and 3, but it was a bit different. That was more about the love for music and why, artistry and being able to be a creative is so important. So I themed those in that way. But I've released, I think in total, almost 10 EPs, counting the Life Test series. I had a few others that came out from 2021 all the way to 2023 as well. And then obviously my most recent released project was called Unknown Advantage, and that was my first official album. That was 10 songs. And now I have multiple other projects coming very soon, all in the works. But essentially, today I just wanted to talk about my experience doing this, kind of the decision making that went into why I decided to do this. And I do have an article today as well. I don't think I'm going to be going over this article today. I think I'm just going to leave this for you guys to read. The article is by Gino Sorcinelli, I believe is how you pronounce his name. But it's called The Step-by-Step Producer's Bible, How to Build a Loyal Following and Use Streaming to Your Advantage. So it's basically, he goes in depth about, the reasons why putting your own music as a producer out there is such a big thing. But I think today I'm going to give more of my own experience. And then, like I said, you guys can read this article. And I might kind of skim this article a little bit just to, give my own perspective on what he's talking about here. But if you guys want to take a deep dive into this, it'll be in the YouTube replay. And that's the only one I found that is related to this directly. So from what I could tell, there wasn't a ton of information on this, at least not in an article or a video form. There's probably more YouTube videos out there, but I felt like this is something I wanted to give my perspective on because I have, a lot of experience with it now, doing it for the last 5 years. So I guess backtracking, I started producing in 2016. So really when I began, my real goal was to work with artists. Like I wanted to work with preferably bigger artists at the time because that's kind of how you start out. You're starry-eyed, you want to get in the production game and you want to be making the highest quality stuff and working with your favorite artists. And then you realize, trying to aim that high is not really the best thing to do. It's much better to work with people that are at the level that you are, or people that are even just beginning, people that if you've been working a few years, you want to work with the people that have just begun, and the independent artists specifically. So I'd say by 2019, I kind of shifted it to let me work with independent artists. So for those first few years, Again, I started out with my friend and my artist J Trey, and we were obviously working together. But as far as other artists go, I started reaching out to people. So I was doing a lot of work in that way. And in 2019, I got my first couple placements with other artists. So that was really my focus. And then I don't even really remember the moment or if there even was a specific moment. But I just remember seeing, different producers that I was a fan of at the time putting out their own projects, releasing instrumental music. And I really wasn't super high, tuned in to the instrumental scene as far as just releasing tracks with no vocals. Obviously, I was familiar with selling your beats, which technically that's releasing instrumentals, but you're not putting them out there on streaming platforms for just the average listener to hear. You're not putting that on a vinyl or a CD to sell to people. But I don't know. I just, the more I got into production and the nuances, and like I said, just hearing my influences, I wanted to really do something for myself too. And I think what went into that decision was being able to tell my own story in my own way. And I think it was kind of something I took as a challenge, because as a producer, you're not saying words, you're not writing lyrics per se, unless you somehow do both. Because obviously a lot of people produce and they sing or rap. I'm not one of those people. I'm not that skilled at writing or singing or rapping. That's why I've never done it. People ask me, will I ever do it? No, I'm not going to do it, because I know that's not my strong suit. You know what I mean? Production is my strong suit. That's what I enjoy doing. So that's what I do. But I think the challenge that I took it as was, can I tell stories in a project with no words whatsoever? Can I still paint some type of picture mentally for people that are going to listen to it? So that's really where the Life Test idea came from, was let me pick this theme, and then I can use the inspirational quotes and things of that nature to get my point across as well. But in the music itself, the melody choices, the percussion choices, everything about the sequencing down to the very last note, it was all intentional. And again, do I go back and listen to that stuff? Not really. I don't really listen to my own music a lot, to be honest. I'm making things and then kind of just moving on. But, at the time, that was the intention. And so that's what I've done really with every project. And every project I've done has had some type of theme to it. So it's been able to, allow me to tell stories without saying anything at all, which I think is super, super cool. And it's the power that instrumental music has. And the last couple years, especially, from 2024 until now, I've really been honing in on that and trying to do a lot more of releasing my own stuff. And I think the cool part about being a producer is that you don't have to wait on anyone. We are making the tracks from scratch. I could release a full project tomorrow if I wanted to. If I sat down tonight and I put a folder of 10 beats that I felt good about, and I came up with a theme real quick, I could just do the whole thing, mix it, drop it tomorrow. I feel like when you're an artist and that's all you do, you're relying on the producer, the engineer, you're relying on other people to kind of bring it home for you. And don't get me wrong, I've worked on songs where there's features on them as well, but those do take time because you need to send it to the artist. They need to let you know if they're feeling the vibe, first of all, but if they are, they have to write to that. They have to probably do multiple takes, because a lot of the times an artist lays down a demo that's just a rough take. They're not going to want to make that the final, so they're going to want to go back and do that again, at least once, maybe more. So it slows down the process a lot. And so I always looked at it too, while I'm working with artists, and that's cool, let me add this to my repertoire, because this will allow me to be more consistent with releasing material. It's going to allow me to work at my own pace. And my pace is, I wouldn't say fast per se, but I'd say it's more frequent than the average person, or at least the average artist, I'd say. While some artists, and again, everybody's different, everybody's workflow is different, but I feel like a lot of artists, they only want to work on a project once a year, once maybe twice a year, whatever. I'm just like, if the project's done, even if it's not coming out tomorrow, I'm already on to the next thing. And the cool thing about just releasing instrumentals is it allows me to do that. Because like I said, I am steering the ship. I'm the only one in charge. And I'm starting to collaborate with more producers. And it's crazy because that takes a little more time, but it still doesn't take as much time as having to wait on verses from people. Which again, I don't think waiting is, I'm not saying that is necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different thing. And if you want to grow your brand as a producer, you want to get your name out there more, this to me is the best step to do it, because again, the average listener is going to be on Spotify, they're going to be on Apple Music, they're not necessarily going to be on BeatStars. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you're just selling stuff out there that only artists are seeing, chances are you're not going to expand your reach that much. And this goes back to really the adage of, do you care about having your name out there, being an artist? So that's another thing you have to ask yourself, like, do you want to do that? But if the answer is yes, I think you have to give this some type of consideration for sure. But again, I think for me, it's just being able to tell those stories, being able to be more consistent, and really just expand my brand and my name too. And it also has allowed me to have different types of conversations in my own podcast, but doing other interviews, getting on blogs, getting on other people's podcasts gives me something to talk about, because I could talk about my collaborations with different artists, but I can also talk about, I got my next solo album coming out, whenever it is, talk about the process behind it. It really allows you to live both sides of the spectrum. Another thing that it has allowed me to do is really gain an appreciation for the artist's perspective and really kind of look at, what goes through their mind when they're trying to narrow down. Let's say they got 30 songs. How do they narrow that down to 10? Or how do they narrow that down to 15? Making a track list, sequencing all the music, adding skits, whatever it is. So it's allowed me to do that too, and especially the last few projects I put together. Some of these aren't even out yet, by the way, but I've obviously had to live this experience already. Coming up with a theme, coming up with branding, trying to figure out like, what is my social media content going to look like? I kind of want everything to live in the same world for each project, because like I said, all these projects have themes as well. So I got that perspective by being able to do that, and I feel like if I was just producing for other people and executing someone else's vision, then I might not have that. But being able to work on my own stuff, it's like, okay, I can do that. Now I could bring other ideas to the table. Pretty interesting that yesterday, actually, I had a call with the Humble Elder, who's an artist from the DMV area. I'm working with him on some music right now. He was asking me ideas for his next single that I produced that's going to be dropping this summer. We were kind of kicking ideas back and forth, and I was just giving him ideas, but I found that I was giving him ideas that I only know because of my own experience and because I've done this in my own work with my self-release material. So it directly allows you to be able to, work out ideas, do trial and error, and then like share that information with the next person, and hopefully it helps them too. So it gives you that perspective. Trying to think of what else has really, how it's really helped me. I mean, again, other than, growing your fan base, if that's something that matters to you, even outside of finding artists. And that's another thing, it can help you find artists too, because if an artist hears a beat of yours that was on Spotify, they're probably going to dig into your back catalog, hear more of your beats, and then find a way to get in contact with you, because then they're going to want to work, they're going to want to write to some of your stuff. I think it just allows you to be in different places, as opposed to just being in one or two places. So that's really what I've tried to do, and obviously being able to have your stuff on YouTube is a big thing. I've been able to make visualizers for some of the songs on the last few projects, and I'm actively working on more for the upcoming projects, which I think is pretty cool. And that's a big thing that can help you out. But I mean, again, overall, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice by wanting to only produce for artists, if you're looking to expand. But I think it does a lot of good for you, and it does a lot of good for the people that you're already working with. So I think it's all good in my opinion. But I think it starts with just asking yourself, do you want to put yourself out there as an artist? Do you want to be able to express yourself in that way? For me as well, I think it's just more of an escape too. And it like I said, it feeds a different side of my artistry, and really just allows me to have that freedom to create my way, which you don't always have when you are working on other people's projects and, like I said, carrying out their vision. Let me skim this article real quick, because that's pretty much all I have to give. I'm not gonna, give a whole tangent today, but I hope that makes sense. You know what I mean? I think that it's just something that producers tend to overlook, because we're so focused on just a finite idea of what being a producer is, which, again, I'm always going to want to work with artists, and I'm always looking for new artists to work with, as long as I feel that it's going to be the right fit. But I feel like being able to do this, something I never thought I would do, by the way, it's just really magnified my love for being able to create, being able to make music, and it's allowed people to see a different side of me, but also just my music and my styles and versatility. So I think it's just something to keep in mind at the end of the day. But in this article, they go over how to utilize platforms like Bandcamp, which we've talked about before. I'm also going to do a workshop on Bandcamp soon, but Bandcamp is really great for instrumental music and for producers. So you can do a lot of things with that. They talk about Odyssey, who's one of my favorite artists and a producer. They talk about how he has really built his catalog through doing multiple things, wearing multiple hats, because he produces his own music, writes everything, puts it all out, and he's independent, and he kind of just steers it the way he wants. They talk about Spotify too. They talk about some other people like Stolen Drums, who does a lot of has amazing music, but is just involved in many different things within the producer world. This is pretty in-depth though. I mean, I would definitely recommend reading this. This was published in 2018, but to me there's still a lot of things in here that hold weight and hold value. So again, I guess just to sum it up, because that's pretty much all I had. I'm not gonna make this a long one, but I thought it was something I wanted to touch on, just because it really has benefited me in ways I never thought possible. And like I said, in 2016, if you told me I was going to be selling a vinyl of my own album to people in 2024, I'd be like, no way. Like, first of all, why would I put out my own music? Secondly, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. There's no way I'm going to be able to sell a vinyl record of my own stuff to someone. But I'm literally doing that as we speak. Literally just sold 3 copies yesterday to a record store in Wisconsin. Like, that's where we're at. But if I never took that chance, if I never was able to put myself out there, we wouldn't be here, like straight up. So again, don't overlook it. Like that's my biggest advice. Don't overlook it. Just keep it in the back of your mind, even if it doesn't sound appealing to you right now. There might come a time where you're just fed up with working with artists and just doing that by itself, and you want that freedom. You want more ability to express yourself as an individual. Like you'll see that that's a big thing, and don't let it limit you to just that either. Because again, I'm brainstorming like doing collab projects with people, forming groups. That's something I want to do in the future, is form like almost like a band in a way, not an official band, but like a group where, I'm doing production in the DAW. I get some live instrumentalists, maybe like a saxophonist and brass player, like a trumpet player, a drummer. Like I'm talking about like incorporating live instrumentation into what I'm doing. So that's a goal of mine. Like it's been able to open so many ideas in my mind of the possibilities there are, and the possibilities really are endless. But it starts with you. You have to be able to take that leap initially to want to get there when the time is right. So yeah, I think that's it. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's my version of it. But like I said, read the article and seek other perspectives. Like this is just my perspective and my experience, but I think you'll find that a lot of other producers share the same sentiment, and that it really is something that has helped a lot of people be able to expand their brand and their sound and just be able to work with more people at the end of the day. So that's pretty much that. So I hope that you guys are able to start crafting your own bodies of work really soon. If this video helped you at all, definitely let me know. Share your own work in the comments of the YouTube video. I'd love to hear different people's work, the instrumental projects. Even if it's just a song that you released on like Spotify or something, I would love to hear it. I'm definitely always looking for more producers. I'm huge on listening to instrumental music now. Like it relaxes me, on my drive to work in the morning, just chilling out on a Saturday morning. I'm usually just listening to instrumentals now because it just really feeds my spirit, and I love that type of music. So always looking for more. But next week we're gonna be back. We're gonna be discussing merchandise, creating merch. I'll give my experience with that as well, but I'll probably find a really cool article to also give to you guys and let you kind of dissect it on some different platforms you can use to create merch pretty easily, get it shipped to you or have it shipped directly to your fans. So we're going to be going over that because that's something I haven't got to touch on yet. But again, as always, thank you guys for checking this one out. Stay safe, stay positive, all that good stuff. Have a great rest of the week. We will see you on April 22nd, which is next Tuesday. But until then, take care, guys.